class. In this presentation, we're going to focus a little bit on the quiz project that will be due shortly. In this project, you're going to create a 10-question test, but you may work with someone. If you work with someone, it should be 15 questions. It should be appropriate for use with a unit in your classroom. A unit is typically 3 to 5 weeks of material, so it's not just one lesson. And in this test, you're going to use selected response and sample constructed response. So we're talking about selected response this week. That's multiple choice, binary, true, false, for example, or matching. And these are questions that students have to choose from an answer that's given on the page, as opposed to a constructed response, which is essay or short answer or fill in the blank, where students have to write the answer. So again, 10 question tests, and it's going to be mixed between selected response questions and constructed response questions. Now, preschool and kindergarten teachers ask me, well, how can I do this? My students can't even read. So it's very simple, because you put an instruction in your paper that this will be given to preschool students and the questions will be read out loud. So your project includes the following: a brief description of the unit on which the assessment would be based. This doesn't have to be lengthy, but it should include what the subject is, what the grade level is, the type of class, and the resources that you have available. It should include one or two, no more than two. I would say one would probably be better to stick with. Standards to be mastered. And you can choose these again from the folder that's on the course materials page, the standards folder. When you do this, it's important to write out the whole standard, because I don't have all the standards memorized, and I want to be able to see that your learning target aligns with your standard. One or two learning targets. Don't give me 5 or 7, because it's just too hard to assess them. So just one or two learning targets that are standards-based, broad enough for the unit, clear and measurable. Remember that learning targets must contain criteria for success. So then you're going to develop your test, and if you're doing it on your own, it's 10 items, 10 questions. If you're doing it with someone, it's 15. Please provide the solutions. So you can highlight the solutions, for example, if they're multiple choice, or underline them, just make it apparent in some way, or you could provide an answer key, make it apparent in some way what the solution is. Now, there's a very specific mix I'm asking you to do. I'm going to ask you to give me 5 multiple choice items, or 7 if you're working with a partner, 3 true, false, or other binary kind of item, or 4 if you're working with a partner, 1 matching item with multiple premises. So what does that mean? It means that think of the columns and matching left and right. Let's say you have 5 items in the left column and 5 items in the right column. That counts as one matching item. If you had 20 in the left column and 20 in the right column, it would still count as one item. Premises are the items in the matching, but overall that still just counts as one matching question. And then later, 1 constructed response item, or 3 if you're working with a partner. Now, it's very important to do a couple of things. To look at the tip sheet, because there's some very specific rules for writing items that have to do with the way items are formatted and the way they're worded. And so I'm going to be looking very stringently at that to see if you followed those recommendations. But you also need to think about what type of item you're choosing for each thing. So some items lend themselves well to multiple choice and some don't. You have to provide a rationale for why you chose to present certain concepts using, or assess certain concepts or skills using the type of format that you did. So why did you choose multiple choice for the questions you did? Why did you choose essay for the questions you did? And your book has very good reasons for this. It's not because you thought it would fit. It's not because you wanted to give the students easy questions at first. You need to cite specific reasons from your textbook. And so if you don't recall those reasons, you need to go back and read the selective response chapter, and then later the constructive response about why you use certain items when you do. So, what are your strategies for success? Well, first, you're going to start with an appropriate standard or standards, write some learning targets, and decide how to assess those targets. Remember, they all must be aligned. Your items must align with all of that, and they must measure the same content, knowledge, or skill. Use the tip sheet to tell you the general best practices. Take your test. Sometimes you find errors by doing this. And have peers or even a student read over your test. So have a student, if you're doing a fourth grade test and you know a fourth grader, ask him or her to take the test and point out areas of confusion. And again, this sounds like a simple test, but there's a lot involved with it. Don't wait until the last minute. It takes time, concentration, and practice. And we're going to get started this week with one standard and one learning target and one item. You'll get some feedback along the way. So this week, like I said, you're going to post on the discussion board. There's a document called Getting Started with the quiz project, and you can follow the steps there, and that'll give you the foundation and one item. And we'll give you feedback. I'll give you feedback. Your colleagues will give you feedback so you can make it stronger. You, in addition, should give feedback to your colleagues. So it shouldn't just say, I really like your item. It should say, I like your item. Have you considered this way to word it? Or I found this a little confusing, or here's why I think, might be helpful to you. Due dates, the whole thing is due Sunday. The draft is due Sunday, March 24th. And then you're going to get substantive feedback from me. And so you'll post the final by Sunday, April 7th. So everybody, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know, but there is a grading rubric coming, so stay with the lecture. So how will you be graded? Well, all the grading scales and rubrics are in the syllabus, and this is pulled right out of the syllabus. So if you want to have this, it's also in the assignments folder, in the folder for the quiz project. So I'm going to look to see that you have your description of your unit, including the standards, that the learning targets, that says objectives, but they should be learning targets, are clear and measurable, and that you have 10 to 15 items, 10 if you're alone, 15 if you're working with a partner, and I'm going to be looking for the specific mix of items that I mentioned, multiple choice, true, false, etc. And then I'm going to be looking to see that you used the tip sheet for the good practices. I'm going to look to see that your overall test layout and construction, and you can see some of the things there I checked for, and they're also on the tip sheet, and that you have a citation, one or more citations from the textbook about why you chose certain items for the questions. In addition, there is a reflection piece that indicates what did you learn and what could be applied to your future classroom. So just like in other assignments, a reflection is not a conclusion. It is a thinking about your own learning and discussing it in depth. So that's it for the mini lecture. Let me know if you have any questions, and good luck.